What's going on, guys? So today we're going to take care of a common issue that a lot of people need to take care of, and generally people are afraid to do it themselves. I want to show you why you should do it yourself. It's very simple, it's very easy to do on most cars, and not only is it going to save you money, it's also going to make you a little bit more familiar with your car, which in the long run is a good thing because that further protects you from getting taken advantage of if you do take your car to the shop.
No.
No. Need a bit more. Alright.
Ryan,
Car is jacked up in the air. You got it supported on a jack stand. Jack's not there. Wheel is under the car in case it fails. For some reason it won't. It's jacked in. Now on this particular car, it's a very simple design. It's a little bit different than what you'd be seeing on some other cars. This is a 2002 Mazda 626 with a V6. Some of you who follow the channel know that this car doesn't have the factory V6, but that's another thing for another day. If you are interested in learning more about that, you can check out this video over here. Anyway, back to the task at hand. So this car has just a basic front brake system. It's your typical floating caliper design. And you can get a look at it right there. And basically, this is the brake rotor. And you got the brake pads in here. And now you can see some spots and some discoloring on the rotor. We'll go over that in a little bit about what this tells you about how your brakes are acting and how you can use this to your advantage in the long run. And a little tip, if you forget to break your lugs loose before you jack the car up, you can always have somebody, if you have a second-hand person, put the foot on the brake while you break the lugs loose on the wheel that need to get broken loose. You always want to make sure your wheels are chocked before you jock it up if you're on a driveway or any inclined surface. In this particular car, we are using a Torx bit. That's a T45. A little trick, you can turn the wheel to help get access to the bolt. Make sure that's set to loosen and not tighten. Shouldn't be that tight. Yeah, you can do a little breaker bar trick if you want to make it easier on you. It's just a socket and another extension. It's particularly kind of weird because it has more of these slide pins than actual bolts, but it acts the same as just like a typical setup. And there you go. Part one done. Now, another trick you can do, you don't always have to remove the top bolt. On most cars, you can just simply pop it off. And it makes it a lot easier that way. So the next step, get the pads out. You see my pads aren't really that bad because I changed them not that long ago, but it squeaks like crazy and the braking force itself isn't as strong as it should be. It's got some glazing, as you can see. It's all shiny and you got the cracks in there, so based on that I want to change them. Alright, so on this car the caliper bracket bolt is a 17mm. This one should be a bit tighter. I'm going to try not to hit the camera. Oh, too late. And voila! Come on. I will say that sometimes you're going to have a hard time getting the rotor off, depending on how long it's been on the car, and depending on how much corrosion has built up on the hub and the back side of the rotor itself. It may take a couple whacks with either your hammer or your foot. If you want to kick it, that works too. Also, some cars will also have locking bolts that come from the factory in these holes, and you may have to screw them out with like a Phillips head, or on some cars it's also going to be a Torx bit. They can be a bit of a pain, but you just got to take it as it is. Now we got everything off, this is also a good time to take a minute and inspect your suspension components. You can look at all your bushings, the lower bushing and upper if you have one, and the tie rods right here. You do not want the brake caliper to hang by itself, so you want to make sure you support it. Sometimes I like to hang it on the strut spring like that, As long as there's no force like shake from the car, it should be pretty stable. So if you're doing a quick brake and rotor swap, you know, it should be all right. So here we have the old rotor and the new rotor. I wanted to take a minute to talk about the rotors and why you want to replace your rotors when you're doing your brakes. Depending on how the rotor looks, but in most cases, it's the proper way to go. You can get it machined, but I guarantee you, the problem's gonna come back. New rotor, old rotor. Now, look at it. See how it's got these lines that go all the way into the rotor? It's also accompanied by different degrees of discoloration. You have it really light on the outside, and then it kind of gets darker as you get closer to the inside. That means that more pressure is being applied to the inside than the outside. You can also see that by the spots that are occurring. This is called hot spotting. This is actually where the rotor is actually getting really hot to the point that when it cools, it actually hardens. That's why the spot changes color. It's a little bit of a harder steel in that spot. Now what this is going to cause is you'll see it on the pad. See how that pad's nice and reflective? It's also got some cracks in there. That's from the overheating, causing that pad to get really hot. It glazes over and then it cracks. Now what this means for you when you're driving and applying your brakes, that means reduced brake force, so you hit the brakes and the car doesn't slow down as much as it did before, you know, brake fade. It also means that you're gonna hear usually more squeaks. Depending on the kind of squeak, can kind of tell you what's going on with the brakes, but we won't really get into that without some squeak demonstrations. This is what happens with your rotors when they get worn down. They won't always be hard, like gnarly scored up like you see on some videos where your pad gets worn out and it starts grinding and it chews your rotor up. That's not always the case with the bad rotor. Typically, you just see a lot of discoloration like this and a lot of ribs. Now, a lot of people will say, oh, you can just machine the rotor and it'll be good to go. Yes and no. Machining a rotor is good, really only like the first time around. Like this brand new rotor, yeah, go ahead and machine it once. After that, you really do not want to machine it again. The reason being is, as you're machining the rotor, you're physically removing material from the rotor. A thinner material is going to get hot easier and stay hot longer as well. So it's simply good to replace your rotors with your brake pads. Keep everything wearing together at the same rate. You get the proper functioning of the braking system. Ben just brought up a good point that I almost forgot. Yeah, if you have hot spotting like you see here, those spots, those will not machine out. You can cut this rotor over and over and over again, and every time you cut it, those spots are going to be there. That's another reason why once you have hot spots, you really shouldn't machine it out. Just go ahead and replace it. Now the new rotor, it's good to always clean it off with brake clean or acetone. I just have my solution here of my cleaner. It works well for like everything, so we're gonna use that. Yeah, terrible. Another thing you can do when you're putting the rotor on to help it make it easier on you, I like to get a lug nut and just screw it on one of the studs to hold the rotor in place. Okay, so now we're gonna go to the parts store to get some brake hardware so I can finish up this job. So, let's go get those. Alright, well, uneventfully we went to get my brake hardware and they didn't have any in stock. So I'm just gonna clean them up the best I can because I don't wanna waste any more time going from store to store to store. And we're gonna move on with this job. Get your hardware, go ahead and place it in. Now with the hardware, you want to make sure that it's not touching the rotor because it'll squeak or screech and it's very unnerving. Alright, so you can use a basic C-clamp to compress the piston in. My boot is torn, I am aware of that, but it'll be alright. Okay, so now the brakes are completely done. The car is back on the ground, wheels have been tightened. The next step you want to do is you want to pump your brake pedal until it gets hard. What you're doing there is you're reseating the caliper pistons back into position against the brake pad so your brakes are primed and ready to go. Oh, already. Okay, so we just got done doing the brakes, going for a quick test drive, and also to break in the pads. There's a couple things you can do to break them in. You can do a few moderately hard stops, just to help seat the pads in to the new rotors. So we can get it to about 45, do a nice firm stop to about 20, and like once or twice, just to help seat the pads in. And that's already immediately better. I mean, it stopped better, smoother, no squeak. Oh, so much nicer. Yeah, the main reason why I did my pads, as you saw, it had plenty of life in the actual pad itself, was my rotors were shot and it just kept squeaking like crazy and just driving me up the wall. I couldn't take it any longer, so there we are. But yeah, this is amazing. So let's go ahead and do one more hard stop and we should be good to go. So.
Can this car lock up its tires?
Yeah, it'll lock it up, like, because it has no ABS, so it just locks right up.
Let's go to like an empty road. I'll be standing there with the camera, and you just and pull up right next to. I'll pull up right next to me with the window, and you just close it right there through the window.
I don't want to get these that hot that soon.
It'd be sick. Okay, another time.
I'm not trying to warp these brand new rotors. Really hope you guys found some value in this. We wanted to just give you a quick how-to if you're curious about how to do your brakes. So that's what we did today. Once again, thank you for checking it out. We really appreciate it. If you would like to check out some more of the awesome videos, go ahead and click right here. Check out some of our awesome videos that we have going on. And if you want to continue to support us, go ahead and subscribe to this channel. There's gonna be more awesome car videos coming around soon. And remember to go out there and do something awesome. Leave us a comment below and like this video if you haven't already. Thanks. Have a good day.